I'm just going to do a little intro and we'll hop into it, okay?
I'm in your hands, and my only
Sweet.
caveat is when I get passionate or excited, I tend to overtalk. So please interrupt me and steer
Sounds
me in
good.
the direction you want to go in, because otherwise I'll just talk myself off a cliff.
We're really good at interrupting our guests. It's kind of what we do. And this is Gaytriarchs. So this past Monday, which is maybe 2 Mondays ago, was National Down Syndrome Day.
Yes.
Where our school was, we go to a crunchy granola school. So they're like, every day is a day and we all honor everyone and it's really wonderful.
Sure.
And so the kids learned about what Down syndrome is. We have a family friend, a friend of the podcast who has a daughter with Down syndrome. And so, they teach them what it is and then you do things to honor them and whatever. So Down syndrome is on the brain of my children. And we're driving in the car in New York City. We're going to the museum and the windows are down. It's a beautiful spring day.
Wow.
And we're talking about it and we're like, yes. And this person has Down syndrome. And he goes, yes. And I've learned it means that this is what it looks like on their face. And he's telling me it's great. And then my son proceeds to look out the window, which is open, point to people, go, they have Down syndrome. Look, there's Down syndrome. And he's pointing to random strangers on the street, screaming, look, you have Down syndrome.
Oh, boy.
Keep in mind, none of these people have Down syndrome.
Right. That you know of, but wow.
So those windows went right up. And so, yeah.
I mean, hey.
A beautiful spring day.
I love that it was obviously no judgment, as it should be. And people should be honored to be pointed out by a random passing child who could be saying, who knows what. On your Down syndrome day at school, did you have mismatched socks? Is that what you all do?
I think that's like the go-to thing where they give you one sock and you choose a different sock.
I mean, I certainly didn't know about that before having kids, obviously. This definitely seems like a Facebook kind of tradition that has sprung up in the last 5 to 10 years. But David, I wear mismatched socks almost every day of the year.
Do you have Down syndrome?
Because if I did, that would be fine. But mainly because I just like having mismatched socks, to be honest. Because it's always
you do
a
it on
conversation
purpose. It's not like I can't find the other sock.
No, it's a combination of both. Like, I'm just tired of looking for these 2 light blue socks, and I just mismatch them. And I have lots of like J. Crew little socks with dogs on them and things like that. And so I don't go for an orange sock and a green sock together, but I try to basically have the same color palette more or less. And that's scintillating information.
Just a riveting conversation for our listener.
Well,
yes.
Speaking of more nonsense, I just want to share with you and the world out there what it's like to have a weekend away as if you're in college with no kids.
Oh my God, speak slowly and tell me everything.
I was lucky enough to be part of a wedding party this weekend that just rented a big-ass house in New Hampshire. And it was about 18-ish people. It was a big house. 18 people who just basically ate and drank our faces off. I drank way too much booze and slept way too little. But man, I had lost my voice by the end of the weekend because there was just so much raucous laughter and screaming over each other. And then I don't know how many times I stopped myself and was like, oh, geez, should I not have said that? Oh, wait. There's no kids around. What an incredibly liberating feeling.
I can say whatever I want.
Yeah, I know. Everybody. So find yourself some friends who need to get into their second marriages, and so that it's basically a bunch of mature adults who are like, we're not going to make this a really big deal, but we're just going to go rent a house together, and a bunch of middle-aged men hopping into hot tubs together. And
okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
It was also very straight. I haven't been in such a very straight environment in a while. It was interesting.
Since you were inside another woman. That's the last time you were that straight. That sounds so fun. I love a weekend away.
Yeah, it was very fun, but I highly recommend a weekend away without children. So just as a reminder, we put it out there all the time, and I never heed our advice whatsoever. But my partner and I were able to get away, and then luckily we had to leave early on Sunday morning, and he volunteered to drive while I tried to sleep. But basically I was probably still drunk, and so just couldn't fall asleep in a moving car early in the morning. Anyway, that's me humble bragging and reminding everybody to get yourself a weekend away. So the reason we actually came back early is because somehow got volunteered for a committee, which I don't have any time for, but hey, how do you get something done? Ask the busiest person you know, to have an artsy protest preparation for the No Kings rally. Did you go to the No Kings rally last weekend?
I did not. I didn't even know there was one.
Oh, you didn't? Well,
no,
I guess
I feel like I'm exactly 3 days behind every event. Like I will see people talking about an event that has happened and I've never seen it prior. No.
Well, I hope by the time we've recorded this, you actually will be able to report back that you did go to a No Kings rally, since in this metaverse that we're creating here right now, I have now warned the future you that there's a No Kings rally that you missed 3 days ago, okay? Great. So anyway, I organized a bunch of artists with a friend to come together and basically make posters and make banners and make shit. And there was folk singing. We got some old folks with guitars literally singing, like, I don't know, old protest songs from the 60s and 70s. It was very much a hippie get together, but it was also a love fest for my small community, for people to come together to say, I am so sick of this. And I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. I mean, everybody in that room knew that we were all on the same political team, but having kids there who were making posters, and I didn't even correct their spelling if they forgot E at the end of people and that kind of thing, and lots of queer friendly everything. And you're just like, there is hope in the world, sort of, despite these very dark times. So I hope you will have retroactively gone to a No Kings rally this weekend and make some posters that are misspelled because it's cuter that way.
With like the R backwards.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
Like, has anybody ever actually done this? So I had an experience this weekend that it was just like, oh, this would be a good topic for the show, because I realized that, we all have these, as parents, once we outgrow a phase, it's as if the phase never happened. Yep. And we look back at it like, I never did that. I never did diapers. Which is why
you have that forgetfulness that make it possible for you to have another kid. Otherwise, we would just eat our young.
Where you say to young parents, oh, you'll miss it.
Yeah.
So my 4-year-old daughter, who, if you're a listener of the show, is a challenge, and she's a bright light in a dark world. She also is she's a challenging child. She's challenged us quite a bit. And so she, for a good year and a half, would have just screamy, tantrumy, like just the worst bedtimes or whatever. Well, the past 6 months, she's mostly been okay. Listen, she still cries every single fucking day. Yeah, I know. I haven't mentioned it.
You haven't complained all that much, but apparently your standards are just so low now that you just put up with it and don't complain about it anymore.
Oh, but Gavin, just you wait. So I kind of got lured into a false sense of, oh, maybe we've outgrown it. Well, this weekend we had another. And this is how it started. Let me tell you how the tantrum started.
Okay.
We were driving home from having ice cream. And I parked the car. Everyone was happy. I opened the door. I walked around the car. I opened the door. And then when I made eye contact with my daughter, she had a scowl on her face and her arms folded. I said, "What's wrong, honey?" And she just went, and she wouldn't say anything.
Oh, I hate it when they do that.
And from then on, for the rest of the day, she was a fucking nightmare until it devolved into, of course, this is around like 6:30 p.m., screaming, kicking, crying, like can't be held, can't be anything. And it was a reminder that, oh, I used to deal with this every single day. However, I was like, what do I do? I don't even remember what to do. Well, because she's older now. Yeah. So just like tossing her in a closet like I used to do doesn't work anymore. I'm kidding. I did not do that. But I was like, she won't be held. She won't be reasoned with. She can't really be punished. And what do? You just let it run out? Just let her.
But she's also not expressing why she's having the tantrum.
No. Oh, she's because there is no why. There is no why. There is literally no. We just had fucking Lucky Charms flavored ice cream at Cold Stone Creamery as a treat because her brother did this musical performance at the school. And we come home and she's like, well, I'm going to burn it all down now for no fucking reason. So I'm like, it's not really a what would you do, but I'm just like, what are you supposed to fucking do?
So what did you do in the moment? Did you just walk away and let her have her tantrum? Or was she following you with her tantrum?
Well, this is the problem when you have multiple parents, is that my go-to is like, well, then cry girl, I'm going to go to the other room to watch TikToks. But my husband is like, no, we need to talk about it, or you need to calm down, or you need to go to your, like, there's activeness going on.
Yeah.
So
also contradicting and undermining you. and your needs.
Exactly. Which is why the divorce proceedings are coming along.
Okay, so then ultimately, don't leave us in suspense. What happened?
What happened is she cried through her teeth brushing. She cried and kicked through getting on her PJs. She cried during reading books, and she cried all the way to. I don't understand. This is what I've realized at 4 years old. 4-year-old tantrums are very different than 2-year-old tantrums. 4-year-old tantrums, they almost get lost in their own bullshit, and then they don't know where they are. Mm-hmm. So she was just decided to be mad for no reason. And then she was mad that she was mad. And then that made her mad. And she got into this fucking vortex where she didn't know the way out. I couldn't have given her a cupcake or a hug or I couldn't have, there was no solve for this because there was no source of it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a whole nother realm of tantrum. So that the solve was we just ran out the clock and she went to bed.
Well, I mean, that's one way of doing it.
Ignore your children.
Yeah.
That's your advice for our listener?
Yes. Sometimes they just need
Good.
Sometimes they just need to be ignored, I think. I mean, there is no other way of getting through that, especially if there's no logic and she's not in any danger and she's not
no danger.
I don't know. Dirty or starving or whatever, just neglect your child once in a while. It is okay. Feel fine.
You heard it here on Gaytriarchs, people.
Alrighty, so moving on to other stuff. You know as well as I do that there is absolutely no good news in the world. I mean, just since we last recorded, David, I think 79 incidents of international hostilities have happened, and they're not even related to Iran or Venezuela. I mean, but they're all Trump's fault, of course. Which, by the way, I think I've done a very good job of never naming Voldemort there on our pod. Yeah. I just want to keep it a pure space, really
protect your peace, your boundaries.
It's our way of saging the airwaves. But anyway, I have dug deep. And because I'm such a good deep digger, I found some stuff for you to feel good about, okay?
I've heard that.
First of all, a federal judge has ruled that RFK Jr. overstepped in his arbitrary fiat about transgender care. In fact, this judge found that the HHS secretary failed to follow proper procedures in seeking to restrict gender-affirming care for minors. Now, we know this isn't the last we've heard of it, but it is nice that there are those very brave people, many of them judges, who are actually saying no, and with some sense of power against this this dictatorship. So that was, I thought, good news. Let kids be kids, right? And they'll figure it out because they're way smarter than we are. Overseas, I have to say it. I have lots of good news for you. Okay. Lots. 3 points. In Poland, a judge ordered the recognition of same-sex marriages that take place elsewhere in the European Union. I would imagine that probably means if I had actually dug deep enough, I would find that they aren't legal in Poland. But nevertheless, the top court in Poland ruled that same-sex couples married in other EU countries can have their unions registered in Poland. So, hey,
love that.
Go
love
Poles,
that.
Go Poles. And then in Nepal, a transgender woman was elected to the parliament. Obviously, a first-time thing in Nepal that we know of, that an out transgender person has been elected into that's official service. And the name is, oh no, Bhumika Shrestha. You have to edit that
Never.
out.
If you think I'm deleting this, you're insane.
Clearly, I didn't say this out loud as I was researching it. LGBTQ plus rights advocate Bhumika Shrestha wins the historic parliamentary seat as part of a sweeping election victory. And that made me feel really good.
That is nice.
Because there's a lot, but mainly, let's just face it, let's bring it back down and face the fact that we're looking at the end of humanity. But, speaking of, I would like to look at another human of society, and that is our DILF of the week, who is Aaron Evil Gay Rourke. So this is sort of along the lines of news of the week, which is Aaron Evil Gay Rourke. I have some issues with that name. Is a WWE
Well, it's also like
wrestler.
evil gay, like you're saying it twice in a row. Like it's like an ATM machine. Yeah. We get it. When you say gay, we know you're evil. Yeah.
Well, Aaron Rourke is a WWE wrestler who recently defeated some other guy, but he is the first out wrestler. Now, those men running around in Lycra with huge biceps and probably tiny penises from all the testosterone they take. That there's been plenty of gays out there. But nevertheless, Aaron Rourke has planted his flag as the very first out WWE wrestler, which is why is he the Diff of the Week? Not because he's making history or taking a stand, but because he's hot.
Because we want him to pin us down in a ring in front of 20,000 strangers. It is a very particular kink of mine. I will, chanting my name. Yes.
Hopefully in support of and not, bury him and get him off the stage. So, nevertheless.
You don't know how I get there. You don't know how I get there, Gavin.
No judgment. No judgment.
But you know how I don't get there?
Tell me.
With our top 3 list?
Gaytriarchs top 3 list. 3, 2, 1.
I don't know.
That works.
It's a terrible transition. Okay, this week is my week, and I want to know who are the top 3 worst gay people. Now, I did say last week that we cannot say ourselves because I think that's a pretty obvious.
Thank you for that disclaimer.
And I'm not.
And now I have to rethink this now because I need to change my number 1. Okay, but keep talking.
Okay, but I purposely, now I know trans people aren't gay, but they are under the queer umbrella. So I purposely excluded trans people, like Caitlyn Jenner, who's obviously would have been up on that
for sure
on that list. So mine are just gay. Okay, in number 3, Peter Thiel.
Yeah. No to him.
You're the worst. Yeah, I hate you.
Mm-hmm. But he's only number 3, huh? Okay.
Oh, yeah, because number 2, Log Cabin Republicans. Here's the deal, guys. You like to pretend you're like, oh, I just believe in fiscal conservatism, but I'm social. No, you're not. First of all,
you're the problem.
You can't have both of those. Second of all, you are the problem. You are just like, hey, you guys can hate me if I can be in your club. It's embarrassing. And stop. You can be a gay man who wants the government to spend conservatively, but when you say I am fiscally conservative, you are secretly saying, I wish I was in the straight white club.
And what have they accomplished? What have they accomplished
Nothing.
since being established, 20, 30 years
Getting
ago?
Trump elected. Yeah. That's it. That's all they've done. Yeah. That's all they've done. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little upset. But I'm going to get even more upset for my number 1. Number 1, the worst type of gay person, verse tops. Babe, either say you're a bottom or top with some sort of integrity. We know what you mean when you say verse top. You say, I'm ashamed to say bottom, but I'm not energetic enough to top appropriately. What about you?
Oh, I should have seen that coming. Number 3 for me, the gay Karen. They're never happy. They're always complaining. One. They're never satisfied. They're always condescending. They make you feel bad about yourself, even though they're the bad ones. The gay Karen, we know them. I don't think they listen to us. Well, they might listen to us just to criticize us, but we know listener is not the gay Karen. Anyway, the gay Karen for me, number 3. Number 2, Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
What? I hadn't considered his sexuality until this moment, but you're 100% accurate. That is a gay man.
I'll leave it at that.
That is a gay man. He has a cat. He lives alone and he has a cat.
And all he does is watch other people on TV the entire time.
He's literally watching porn all day. And it's all he's watching are men, by the way. Wow. You men. Nailed that one, Gavin. That was a great one.
Number 1, Lindsey Graham.
It was on my list too. I just did. Yes, great. Yes. I also had like J. Edgar Hoover, but like Lindsey Graham, absolutely worst.
I don't think J. Edgar Hoover is worse than any of the 6 people we've brought together.
No.
He would be like number 6 or 7, I think. And I don't know.
Fucking Lindsey Graham.
Relegated.
Stop it.
Yeah, just
stop it. Yeah. What's next week?
In the spirit of Easter, which is just around the corner, I would like to know about the 3 best crucifixions in history.
Wow.
So, David, today's guest left a perfectly good career moving billions of dollars around Wall Street to spend his days in small rooms with other people's children. OPCs. OPCs.
No,
and somehow That's the respectable choice. He's everything that we are not, David. He's generous, he's smart, he's money-wise, he's patient, and childless, at least for the moment.
Dream.
So here to tell us everything that is wrong with how we are raising and educating our children is Danny Bennett. Danny, welcome to Gaytriarchs.
Thank you guys for having me.
So we always start out asking folks, how have their children driven them bananas already today? And in your case, I think you have more children, so to speak, than any guest we've ever had. So how has one of your students' children driven you bananas today?
Oh, they're all so lovable. They don't drive me bananas at all. They haven't given me gray hairs or shortened my lifespan one bit. Where to begin? And do we have to stick with the children, or can I dive right into the parents?
Oh, go right for the parents.
Because we all know the parents are the problem. Yes,
but for sure. Like OPKs, I lament like OPKs are my least favorite people on the planet, which are other people's kids. But also the other people's kids' parents are a real close second. Like especially the ones that want to talk to you, like the straight dads at the park who are like, see the game last night, and you're like, I don't have the emotional energy for this conversation right now. Sorry, Danny, come.
No. I apologize. I know this is a parenting podcast, and maybe it's because we work with the kids, and so I'm kind of defend the kids. But I do. My heart goes out to the kids. It goes out to the parents too, for sure. But at the end of the day, they are kids, and as much as you do want to kind of shake them and say, we've been over this a dozen times, why do you still not know your special triangles? It ultimately, I do think a lot traces back to the parents, and I think that what in terms of driving me bananas, I think one of the frustrations is trying to I don't even want to say fit a square peg in a round hole, but like fit an elephant inside of kind of a needlepoint, right? In terms of we want all of these things and we want them all to happen immediately. And how have you not fit this into 90 minutes of once a week, right? And I just think it drives me crazy and us crazy and the tutors crazy, and it drives the kids crazy too. And I think these poor kids are on the short end of the stick of being asked to do things that at some point is unreasonable, right? Or at least it would be beneficial if the parents are able to say, you know what, we're not going to get this all done in one day, so let's just like take it bit by bit.
So out of the gates, your unsolicited advice for parenting is basically stop trying to mold your children in directions that they don't want to be molded?
I think it's funny. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because and I know you said expletives are okay. So like on one hand, there is a like chill the fuck out, right? Like,
chill the fuck out.
Calm down for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other end is also have a little bit of be a parent, right? Have a little bit of authority and kind of be able to discipline and force your kid to eat their vegetables before they get their dessert, kind of a thing. Because I think a lot of parents want to not be the villain, but they also want to push their kid to an extreme that may not be ultimately who they are or what's best for them. And the frustrating thing is there's a better way to accomplish that, right? Like if you get them excited about what they're going to learn, then they'll actually engage with the material on their own volition, as opposed to you just kind of like slapping them with the book over and over again until they learn it, aka hate you forever and put you in a nursing home when you're older.
I feel like that's the eternal question we talk about all the time is how much influence do we have on our kids? Like, we always say like blame parents. That kid's shitty, it's probably his parents' fault. Sometimes my kid is shitty and it's his fault. If I'm being totally listen, sometimes it's my fault, right? Totally. But sometimes they are pre-packaged with some shitty behaviors that doesn't involve me, and that maybe I'm just being defensive. But wait, can I go back a little bit, Danny? Who are you? Why are you here?
Yes,
I want to orient our audience. I think our audience is like, who is this beautiful gay man on our podcast?
You were already talking about slapping them with books and trying to educate them. So tell us how you slap books and try to educate children.
I will. And the one thing I do want to latch on to with what you just said is ultimately that is still a parenting question, which is to say, call them out. Right? Like you are being unreasonable right now. I am going to be the parent and lock you in your room and take your device away. Right? So like, I agree with you that when you say to what extent is it the parents, I think, it's one of those like, accept the things we cannot control and control the things we can, which is to say you can't control who this child is, right? They are going to be sometimes just totally on their own agenda, but you can still set the parameters. And I think that's something that parents almost feel this lack of control. And at the end of the day, they might seem, and I get the luxury of saying this because I'm not a parent, so maybe it'll be very different when I am. But
so
anyway,
who are
we
you?
can come back to that later. Who am I? That is an existential question that I ask myself every day. Can you ask a more leading question?
Okay. You left Wall Street because you felt compelled to do something else. And what is that something else that you do now?
Yes. So I run a private tutoring company. So Grey-Eyed Owl, and it's Grey, the British spelling. Grey-Eyed Owl, affectionately GEO, is a small boutique private tutoring company. We work with a small number of families on a long-term basis for the full student life cycle or the full student journey. We often start with families when the kids are in as young as maybe 4th or 5th grade, definitely 6th or 7th grade. And we usually continue all the way through up into college and university and even kind of grad school and professional kind of investment banking prep. And the fun is that we serve as that through line for their coursework, for their test prep, for their even extracurriculars or enrichment, and into college advising and college coursework and so on. And what's so fun and powerful about all of that is we get to be these holistic mentors to both children and their parents throughout that entire journey, rather than just I'm a Spanish tutor and let me help your kid with Spanish for 6 months. So it's a very unique approach to private tutoring.
That holistic longevity is what you saw lacking out there. So you wanted to improve upon the system. You saw the need, and basically, is this just the gay agenda writ large that you're trying to bring and indoctrinate?
Maybe.
Nice. Perfect response.
I wouldn't say no. I would say you're giving me too much credit because I never intended to start a private tutoring company. It just kind of happened. And it's not that I saw these gaps and wanted to go on a crusade to change the world. It's that I just started working with students and I said, hold on, we can't even do test prep if you don't understand basic math or even understand why you're studying. Right? Or I can shove a bunch of vocab words down your throat, but if you don't care and you're just going through the motions, then you're missing the bigger point. So let's actually look at reading comprehension through a lens that you find interesting, and let's show you why it doesn't matter what you're reading, whether it's science fiction or graphic novels or whatever, but as long as you're reading something and engaging with it thoughtfully, that will help inspire you to actually, it's like the gateway drug into, Charles Dickens and Jane Austen. That's how I reel them in. And so I started doing that on the side. My mom was scolding me for not giving back to the community more, and a high-end tutoring company reached out needing an economics finance tutor, and that's how I kind of got in this weird space. Mm-hmm. Then they said, you're good at this. Do you want, would you be interested in subject tutoring and test prep? And it just kind of exploded. And I think it's because, I didn't set out to start a tutoring company. I just started engaging with students in a way, maybe because I wasn't a teacher, that was a little more like built from the inside for the students. And it seemed to resonate. And before I knew it, I had more referrals than I could handle. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
That's, my oldest is just now in regular school. He's in 1st grade now. So I'm starting to get a little bit of a taste of like how schooling works now. And beyond the 65 apps I have to maintain his schooling, which I know sounds like a joke, but it's actually pretty close to being real. The one thing I'm curious about, if you have a window in, is the distance. This is what I remember in college being really frustrated by in the arts, is the distance between kind of what school is currently teaching, how the model works, how education works in America, and what actual learning and being a full human and being educated in the current world is, and how far apart those are and how close they are. Because, the whole like reading, writing, arithmetic. Okay, but like now we need a lot more than that. And do we really need arithmetic with, modern day calculators and ChatGPT? How close is schooling now to what you think it should be in the real world?
Oh, you've hit so many landmines for me. We have so much to talk about.
You have 45 seconds. Go.
Do we need arithmetic? Yes. I mean, I think, and part of me also wants to say, tell me more about that. What do you mean about the distance? Because on the one hand, I agree that we are not preparing the next generation for how to navigate the modern world. But on the other hand, I think what we've lost are actually these fundamental skills of a strong liberal arts education and the foundations of how to think and and also just knowledge, right? And actual concrete knowledge of the basics, the basic foundation of knowledge, and then being able to know what is real, what's not real, and then engage with it critically from there and come up with your own independent thoughts. I think all of that is it's gradually kind of crumbled. And I think that everyone is at a loss, teachers, students, parents, for how to navigate the system, which is really kind of both perplexing and disheartening for me, because it's kind of like, why are we reinventing a wheel that wasn't really broken to begin with?
Well, I guess what I mean when we ask, like, what I mean is that, like, I remember as a student, again, this was in the 1930s, but I remember as a student feeling like all of this is built to service this. It was this just running around in circles. Like, I was learning how to test for tests in school. Do you know what I mean? I was learning how to utilize the system that was its own system. And I was like, what does this have to do? Especially in the arts game. I don't know if this was your experience, but like I was learning stuff in the arts where I was like, this is all how this school works. So I'm learning how this school auditions. This was not how auditions work in the real world. I was not learning critical thinking skills. Maybe like passively I was. But I just remember feeling like I'm just figuring out a way to cheat on these tests because these tests are just testing about this class. It's not like about knowledge per se. And this is kind of a big woo-woo question, but I don't know if that's still the case. Is it still feels like we're just doing things to service itself, or if we're actually trying to educate kids in a way that is fundamentally good for them as adults in the future?
It's such a good question. And my response would be, I think, this is a quote that we have on the website, and I just happen to really believe in it, which is there are no boring subjects, only boring teachers. And I think that if we do not find the magic and I'm not normally a woo-woo person, but Grad Owl is a very kind of magical place. If we are not able to find the wonder and the magic and the creativity in all of these subjects and all of this learning, then we are doing something very, very wrong. And I think we are doing something very, very, very wrong writ large with education today, because we are not connecting the dots for the kids. And again, I'll go to the bat for the kids. I'll go to bat for the kids and say it is our responsibility to show them why this is so cool and why this is so interesting. To frame it another way, because you're getting at some really great questions, is we actually are less concerned with students getting the right answer, and we are much more concerned with understanding how they are thinking about the problem, and whether or not they deeply understand it, whether they are engaged and engaging with it. You can take the most disengaged student and get him or her excited about a quadratic equation, right? If you are approaching it the right way and you are bringing the energy and bringing the kind of bringing the engagement with them, right?
Is the quadratic equation negative b plus or minus the square root of that? Is that the quadratic equation?
Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right.
Bitch, look, I still got it. Okay, Florida educational system.
There.
Wait, going back to your website really quick, I just want to give you a shout out. Your website is so fucking gorgeous, and it has got very Harry Potter vibes. It has very Gryffindor. It's
the
beautiful.
idea that it's even that gray-eyed owl that has Harry Potter vibes for sure. Not to mention the fact that Danny's background right now is almost giving Harry Potter via a Brooklyn makeover. But anyway.
And that actually is very intentional. I'm so glad you like it. I did work with a friend in an updated version of the website, but I did build the website originally by myself. But the whole point was to make something that felt kind of magical. Like I ended up the name. I knew I wanted something adjacent to mythology, and it's a reference to Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and her gray eyes, and then the owl is her kind of familiar, her companion animal. but I knew I didn't want a name or a company that had anything to do with, first of all, my name, right? Like Bennett Tutoring or something. And I also didn't want anything with tutoring or academy or school, because I wanted this to be a space that students and parents felt like Hogwarts, felt like it was a brand, and it was a space and an environment and a place where learning was exciting, and it wasn't just school. So to your point of, I'm doing this just so that I can pass the test, our whole philosophy is that great grades and college admissions and test scores come as a byproduct of the work that we do. Mm-hmm. But those metrics are not the point. The point is to have somebody maybe not fall in love with math, but leave not hating, right? Or thinking I can do math, and seeing I kind of need to be able to do math because I'm going to have to manage my personal finances when I get older. And if I really don't understand kind of basic algebra, then I'm probably up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah. Can I take 6 inches?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I need to know what 6 inches are. If I'm gonna, if somebody's going to come at me with 6 inches, I need to have the math skills to know that is
radius.
Possible or not possible. Correct. I just
thank you for that,
David. Look at his face. He was so ready to move on to something thoughtful and eloquent, and I just fucking sidelined the conversation.
But talk about practical application, David. You just demonstrated the practical application of math in your arts background. So I think that you just disproved your entire point. I do have one more systematic question, though, is that you were talking about how the system, basically inferring that the system has crumbled. How has the system crumbled? Is it just decades of bureaucracy and layers of, I don't know, rules and regulations that have just sanitized education so it's unusable?
I love the exasperated gay face we just made Dan have. Like, he is literally I know this is an audio platform, but he is just like exasperated gay right now.
It's such a good question. And I take the long view of history. I was going to get a PhD in economic theory, economic history. And so,
well, now maybe you have a tutoring system that can help you through that PhD process, hopefully. On the side,
if I want to, but if I want to, I found my happiness. I basically get a degree in everything that we get to tutor right now. I love it. I have my dream job. I'm just a professional nerd.
You must be insufferable at trivia nights.
Sometimes is the answer. And then I have shocking gaps of knowledge where like pop culture, sports, all of these other things, I am not your person at all.
There probably isn't an easy answer to how it has crumbled, but is it just stagnance over decades and lack of imaginative thinking?
Well, I think that we often it is convenient and a survival mechanism to think of things in terms of binaries, like, is my child good or bad, right? Are they behaving or not behaving, right? Or is the education system working or not working? And that's really hard to say, right? The system of education that we have today was developed in the 19th century to model the factory system, right? So that's where you get bells and moving from class to class. And it was all kind of intentionally designed to set kind of assembly line workers up for success in the 1800s. And on the one hand, you could say, oh, how terrible. On the other hand, it was actually the first access to education that many people had, right? Because you had to be super wealthy to have an education before that. So, like, it's better than what came before. And I would say that, again, we've incrementally improved on that. So I'm not saying, like, I wouldn't point to anything that I say this was the golden age of education and now it's crumbled per se. But what I do think has crumbled is the emphasis on a strong core curriculum and a strong liberal arts education, where essentially students go through from, let's say, 6th through 12th grade, these core foundations in math, science, history, English, foreign language. And by the end of it, everybody who graduates high school has gone through chemistry, has gone through biology, knows that kind of essential
basic
math,
knowledge,
etc. Yeah. And I think we've thrown all of the kind of the classic curriculum and the classic canon out the window. I think we've thrown standards out the window, and grade inflation is just off the charts, right? It just statistically does not make any sense for everybody to be getting A's. Kids are getting passed through in ways that they probably should not, right? And I think, I think that we are totally failing this generation in terms of connecting the dots of why it all matters. Because and it's not just me and the kind of 25 tutors that we work with, but there is some sort of epidemic going on with especially middle schoolers not completing and not handing in their homework. It's like, it's fascinating. It's like these little existentialists are sitting there saying, what's the point? And I'm thinking to myself, you are in 6th grade. That's a very interesting question. Sit down and, learn circumference and area of a circle because
just fucking memorize it. Yeah.
And just fucking memorize it. And it's the disenchantment that students feel with like, well, do I even want to go to college? Do I even need to graduate high school? We've lost the script in terms of having any sense of authority, and B, in making them not want to sit there and study chemistry, but at least understand that it's important and that they have to go through that journey. But I don't know, David, if I'm like hitting a nerve here.
No, the nerve you hit was, I was just thinking about me as a student. Like, listen, I am a very smart person, and it was a bad thing because I am smart and lazy. So I would just figure out ways to get A's without ever doing any of the work. And you said biology. I was thinking I was in AP bio in high school, and we did this thing where we were breeding flies, and we had to knock them out. And then we had these little drawers we would store them in, and then the next class would have their own drawer or whatever. And so I was fucking bored, and I got in a drawer, and I woke all these flies up, and I stuffed them in one of the other class's drawers. So when they opened it, instead of having their passed out flies, there was a fucking infestation. And I thought I was so smart, and I immediately got a detention because they knew exactly who it was. But I just remember I was doing everything but the work. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny to just have fucking flies everywhere? Sorry, by the way, sorry, Mr. Pritchard in East Lake High School of Tarpon Springs, Florida. That was me.
Did they breed? Did the flies multiply?
Yeah, we were breeding all these flies or whatever, but we had to use, I don't know what.
No, but did they interbreed when you put them all in the same drawer? Because this is an experiment in exponential growth. Like, you could have written a whole
That was the point. That's what I was doing.
Like,
I was doing I was totally doing that. I wasn't just doing a prank on the next class.
And call me crazy, and this is probably not indicative of what we do at Grad Owl, right? Of ever, tell your kids to just run wild in the classroom. But what I would say is, yeah, maybe you were being a bit of a troublemaker or whatnot. But first of all, you were in AP biology, so you couldn't have been that. I know you said you didn't work that hard, but you got straight A's. Like, you clearly were engaging to some extent. And B, you were doing what kids do, which is be naturally creative and kind of mischievous. And there's an element of an experiment in there, right? Which I'm not saying that's what everyone should do. But what I am saying is, you were in school in AP biology, messing around the way teenagers do, right? And that's healthy. What we're observing in this generation, which is not healthy, is I'm in middle school and I don't even I haven't completed my homework for months, and I have D's, and because it's all on these terrible portals, the teachers aren't letting the parents know. And the disconnection that exists right now in education is so troubling, because the system that we were all raised in is very, very different from the system that these kids are in now. And I personally think it all kind of traces back to technology. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay, so Danny, let's shift focus a little bit, and I want to know all the ways that you're going to be the best dad, or possibly the worst dad, if you ever become a dad.
I would love to become a parent,
right.
And I will probably be as average of a parent as anyone can be. I don't think there is. I think we all do the best we can, and I don't think there is one right answer. I will say that I like to think I'm learning a lot of lessons of parenting from what I've observed. And I do think that the best parent, like being the best teacher, probably means you are not liked all the time, right? That you need to say things and do things that come from a sense of authority, and that we are all better for it if we just accept that. And that's probably not very romantic or eloquent, but
for a bunch of overachieving parents who are able to get their children into a boutique tutoring service, I bet they don't want to think that just okay is just okay, or just doing your best. This is like, you're in a world of high achievement, I bet. But hold on. Sorry. back to you for a second. You and I had an interesting conversation the other day where you actually said something I think very insightful to me about how old you expect to be when and if you become a parent.
Yes. So my dad was born in 1933, and he had me when he was 50. So and it was a second marriage. His first wife passed away of cancer tragically, and so I had three older half brothers. And then he met and married my mom, and then they had my older brother, and then me. So I'm the youngest of five boys. And so my mom was 20 years younger than my dad, but I always grew up with an older parent, right? And I think I also was just so not ready financially or probably maturity wise to be a parent earlier. So it's always felt okay for me to be a parent when I'm older, and probably in everybody's interest for me to grow up a little. But yeah, it's also very expensive is the thing that I worry about the most, and trying to figure out how am I going to be able to afford, because I especially probably want more than one kid. So how am I going to be able to afford 2 or 3 children and raising them in this environment?
Will the quadratic equation help you in that pursuit?
If it pays the bills. Okay. If I can teach other people the quadratic equation.
Nice. All right. So what can we as parents do to help our kids help you in the process best?
I think that it's a great question. I think that so we offer private tutoring, and that means for a lot of families, we are kind of full service. And so because we do coursework and test prep and advising, we'll meet with the kids sometimes, 3, 4, 5 plus days a week, sometimes, more than for an hour and a half or 2 or 3 hours a day. So it can be a lot, right? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of other families that we'll meet with twice a week for 90 minutes each. And especially with those, there's only so much you can do, 90 minutes once or twice a week, right? And like going to the gym, you can have a personal trainer and go to the gym, and if they just move your limbs around for 60 minutes, that's not going to get you in good shape. You need to focus on nutrition. You need to work out outside of those sessions.
And if they're really hot, though, sometimes that can help with the motivation factor.
we only work with very charismatic tutors, so that's part of
absolutely.
That's part of
they have to submit a headshot.
Yeah, and then 6 inches, right? As we talked about before, how many inches?
A 6 inch headshot. We do have a very competitive hiring process, and one of the major things we look for is charisma, right? Because you could be the most brilliant person in the world, but if you're not charismatic and engaging, then a student's not going to listen to you, right? We all know we paid attention more when the hot professor was at the front of the classroom.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
And sought out extra help, right? Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't understand this. Could you please explain it to me?
Oh my God. I thought I wanted to, I legitimately considered a career in baseball because of my elementary school gym teacher, Mr. Vermeeren. He wore these short, early 90s shorts. And oh Lord, I hung on every word of his. Hi, Mr. Vermeeren, if you're out there.
I definitely a listener. If I love that you phrased that, I considered a career in baseball as if you were being recruited. You considered it, and instead you decided to do figure skating and Broadway.
You heard that? Yeah, you're right. You got it.
Anyway, so back to how can we best serve you?
What can parents do? So, which is essentially that these lessons, and this kind of goes back to my, the driving me bananas, is they want, okay, so if I give my kid to you for 90 minutes, that's going to fix everything, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what we offer also is not, we are not ChatGPT, we are not Khan Academy, and there are tons of resources where students can go to find the answer, right? That's not what we're here for. We're here to serve as mentors, to get them to think critically, to get them to engage. And all of that is skill building, which they need to take with them outside of the session and continue to deploy in order to really get the benefit out of it, right? And so
that is
the best
complex.
thing but it's actually not. It's hard. It's not easy, but it's simpler than I think a lot of parents realize, right? And that's what's so fascinating to me is that parents are like, this is so complicated. And I'm like, actually, it's really not. If you just take the device away and force them to and check their homework to make sure that it's done before they get to watch TV or play video games, isn't that the standard stuff that all of our parents did when we were younger? Maybe
back in the day,
right?
My mom. I definitely grew up with a helicopter mom who checked all of my homework, and it was so frustrating. But I have to say, I remember learning from my mother the difference between there, and there, and how to spell through and
your and your.
But I remember. It was really infuriating, but by the time I got to high school, she didn't do that anymore. So, and meanwhile, I don't check any of my kids' homework because so often they're just submitting things online, and I don't even get a chance to see it, and I didn't set the precedent for checking them. But
that's such a hard. Going back to what you were saying, like that's such a, to me, that is the thing I want the most from our educational system and just education in general, and it's the hardest, most broadest thing, which is developing good judgment and critical thinking skills, because I can't go through each kind of email phishing scam and false website with you and teach you everything. I need to just to develop a good sense of what is right and wrong in you, and then you make those decisions. It's like, trying to tell your mom, you're like, no, Mom, you don't have $10,000 rebate check coming from Nigeria. I promise you. And she's like, well, how do you know? And it's like, how do I know? I don't know. I just grew up before and after computers. And so how to develop something so broad and so kind of like amorphous in these people is so important in the world, especially in ChatGPT, where people just like go, oh, well, ChatGPT said this. Well, did you critically think that? Well, no. If I don't have those skills, I don't. I just believe what's on the screen.
Yeah, I think no. I don't want to say I blame technology, and I'm not a Luddite, and we don't need kind of the storming of the Bastille of Silicon Valley, and we all just tear it all down. But I do think that what can parents do? Parents can think back to what type of experience they had growing up in the world before computers, and how can we replicate that for this next generation? Because even though technology has a lot of wonderful power to support us, it's a tool, and we need to know how to use it, right? And I think I think that taking the devices away, making sure that kids are reading physical textbooks, writing in their notebooks, doing their work, doing their assignments properly, especially at a young age, and modeling, because a lot of this habit formation happens when they're younger, when they're in fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade. By the time they're in eighth, ninth grade, if they don't have some sense of self-control and discipline and time management and organization, at least some semblance of it, it becomes increasingly hard to instill that once things get busier and faster and harder with organic chemistry and AP world history and everything. So you really have to teach those habits early. And I think the best thing that parents can do is spend the time with the kids to model for them, and have a system of carrots and sticks and rewards and punishments if they're not doing what they need to do.
Parenting is nothing if not constant bribery. We can call it carrots and sticks if you want, but come on. We are negotiating with terrorists every single moment of the day. I'm literally texting my son at this very moment, please read your book before you get on your computer, not just based upon this conversation, but because I know he's not going to do that. Sorry.
But also the modeling is so unfair. Like, why do I have to be a good person to raise a good, like, this is so, like, let me be a piece of shit but make him be a good person. Oh, it's exhausting. Like washing my hands, whenever I'm in the bathroom with my kids, I'm like, let's wash our hands. Like, I do that every time. Are you kidding me?
But didn't we grow up, and maybe my dad was just super old school, but I certainly grew up in a world where like he could get away with the rules, and I would always challenge him on it, and he would say, well, but I get to, because I'm the adult, and I just had to listen to him because I would get the belt if I didn't. So,
but that's but now I remember feeling that's so unfair. I'm like, well, why do my dad would always yell at me like, hold the car door for your mother. And I was always like, well, why don't you do it? He didn't model it for me, but I had to do it, which is what I just said. Ugh, why are you confronting me with my own hypocrisy?
All righty. So
and then you became a figure skating baseball player. Look at you.
Yes, except no baseball. Yeah.
He played with any other kind of ball he could possibly get his hands on. So, Danny, leading up to the simplest of all the questions, are phones the fault, and how do we get rid of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes is the answer.
Yes.
But how do we get rid of them?
Just get rid of them. Throw them out the window.
wait until 9, I think, is what people are trying to do now, is wait until high school, which I certainly failed at, but I'm on the cusp anyway of
Isn't 9 middle school?
High school, basically.
Oh, ninth grade. I thought you meant 9 years old. Oh, ninth grade. That would be amazing. But I mean, honestly, Danny, like, I know this is an impossible question, which is why we like to end every interview with the impossible question. But truly, yeah, just throw them out the window. Just don't let your kid have phones. Maybe this is a like parent, not parent thing. That is impossible. There is no amount of keeping the phone out of their hands that will prevent them from having technology either in the classroom or at their friend's house or whatever. So other than just phones disappear, which is the magic wand version, how do we keep phones from destroying our children?
Yeah, I mean, it's so I have so, and I know we're probably like we've already chatted for so long, but I have so much to say on this topic, and I know this is kind of a fun environment and not a public policy question. And it's difficult because, I know Australia's started the phone ban. Certain schools have been banning phones, which is great. And ultimately, I agree with you that, and parents talk to us about this, like, it works only if everybody does it, only if everybody in the community does it. And so until we all pass legislation to say this is a national requirement, then it is very difficult, right? However, I firmly believe, and I'm quite confident that, social media and even phones themselves are what tobacco was back in kind of the 60s and 70s. And I remember I was telling you about this before, how my mom, I asked her once, like, what was it like smoking? Because they smoked for a bit and then stopped. And I said, did you know it was bad for you? She said, we knew it was bad. We just didn't realize how bad, right? Yeah. Until the water broke and all the research was exposed that the tobacco companies well knew that this caused lung cancer and was addictive, et cetera. And I was like, we were inhaling smoke. Of course we knew it was bad. We just didn't realize how bad and how well documented it is. I firmly believe we are at the cusp of tech companies kind of collapsing with all of that coming out. And I think that when you notice it with the kids, so you say like, but it's impossible, right? I try to take it away. And what do? They scream, they get upset, right? This is a clear sign of an addict, right? Somebody who cannot function without a certain device. And while I think it's up to parents themselves to decide, when they want to let their kid use it or how much, I think that certainly up until 9th grade and possibly even thereafter, an hour once or twice a week where you all sit in the living room and read a book together, or they have to sit at the dining room table and complete homework without a phone or a computer with them. Like just starting to drip these parameters, if your child is addicted, of time where they're not allowed to have it, or as you said, bribery, they get some sort of reward. If they complete X, then they get their phone for Y amount of time. But I think we have to start setting some parameters. And it's even, I feel gross even talking about it like this, because at the end of the day, we all grew up without phones. Like, it is totally possible to exist in the world as a human being without a phone appended to your hand.
And we got bored, and it was a good thing. Danny followed up after I chatted with him the other day. He followed up with an email that gave me a huge, amazing amount of topics to discuss. And I think we've touched on many of them here. But I'm literally going to do a drive-by of some of the laundry list of things that are absolutely terrifying and yet pinpointing the problem, and more probably what Gray Owl tries to approach, Like, number one, the skills crisis. American students are just missing out on basic skills to be able to help them grow through life. Number two, the knowledge crisis. They don't know what century the French Revolution took place in. The habit crisis. Number three, the habit crisis. Just being able to have the good habits to be able to work and function in what we call the 2026 society. Number four, the humanities question, that we need to have broad-based education that isn't just specialized all the time. Otherwise, we just have a bunch of specialists walking around, and how incredibly boring is that? Number five, AI and the illusion of learning. AI is not actually intelligence. It is just aggregation, and we can't rely on it as anything but just a helpful tool once in a while. Number six, the reality of college admissions. What a complete pain in the ass that is. Number seven, education beyond credentials. There should be a full, holistic approach to education that isn't just about your test scores. Number eight, education is a democratic imperative. A functioning democracy depends upon an educated citizenry capable of historical awareness, critical thinking, and respectful debate. Danny, we'll definitely have you come back and dive into each one of these topics in all of the most irreverent ways we possibly can.
That is a 6-inch mouthful.
Oh yes, what a perfect way to end this.
Danny, thank you for demeaning yourself by being on our stupid little podcast. We will talk to you again soon.
This was so fun. Thank you guys for having me.
We usually come into our something greats with kind of a reflective voice, but I'm coming into my something great with a lot of excitement.
Oh,
the other day, my daughter, who's now playing lacrosse after school till like 5:30 in the afternoon, which is great because she is working off a lot of pent up 14-year-old frustration, and it's awesome. She got in the car the other day, and before I could even open my mouth, and I anticipated her needing just silent time. I really did. But she got in the car and she said, I just really need you to not talk right now. and luckily, I anticipated that. And also, luckily, I honored it.
You honored it.
And I gave her a solid 20 minutes of complete silence, which she was, to be fair, just scrolling her phone the entire time. And then we stopped at the grocery store or something like that. And she put her phone down and she said, I feel so much better. Thanks, Dad. And I'm like, for once, my something great was me actually being a good parent for 20 minutes. I'm going to pat myself on the back.
That was great. Listen, I know how hard that is for you. Our listener knows as well. There's just not a moment where you just can't tell your feelings to the world.
Yep.
But I also know how hard it is when your kid gets in the car and all you was like, how was your day? What happened? What happened? Blah, blah, blah.
First day of practice in a high school sport?
Yep.
Come on.
Nope.
There were so many questions to ask.
Good parent of the year, Gavin Lodge. You win that award.
For 20 minutes.
Speaking of awards, my something great is my Emmy award arrived yesterday.
Yes.
And if you follow
I'm so glad you're telling this.
If anybody follows me on the socials, on the social media, I did a silly unboxing video, but you know, when you win your award, you have to get it engraved, and they, it basically takes a couple of weeks, and then they ship it to you. So it arrived
for $700
for like $763.58. But it came to my house, and of course it was really terrifying. And I was like, oh my God, and what if they spelled the name wrong? What if it breaks? Right. What if I do all the things? But it is beautiful. I just showed Gavin. It's currently sitting on my shelf, and it is. Everyone asks this question, so I will tell you.
How heavy is it?
It is as heavy as you can imagine. It is like holding up a cinder block. I think it's pretty big. I mean, honestly, it's like maybe a foot and a half tall. It's a very large thing, but I think they probably build it in a way that's heavier than it needs to be, just so it feels a little weightier. But it is beautiful. I'm very happy I have it, and I will be continuing to be insufferable about it for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
What I was most impressed by was the packaging it came in.
Oh, the box. Oh, I didn't even talk about that.
What are you going to do with that box?
Well, I'm keeping it forever next to all my iPhone boxes that I don't do anything with. But
that's creepy.
Oh my God. But it is the box, it's massive, but then there's this,
it's something out of Hogwarts.
It's like this gorgeous like brass clasp, which is a lovely, delicious word. And it's got like this velvet interior. It is, I'm sure the box is like half the cost of this fucking thing. But yeah, it came in that box. So I'm going to keep it forever. And also, if we ever move, how am I transporting my Emmy other than just keeping it in my lap? Maybe. By that time, I'll have more. So we'll have to get a special team. But yeah, that my something great is about me and my award.
And that's our show. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general compliments, you can email us at GaytriarchsPodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can DM us on Instagram. We are at GaytriarchsPodcast. On the internet, David is at David FM Vaughn everywhere, and Gavin is at Gavin Lodge on Do You Have an Emmy?
Please leave us a glowing 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks. And I have an Emmy with you next time on another episode of Gaytriarchs.